Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be speaking with Terry Masterson about his side of the family tree. In what year and where were you born?
I was born in 1974 in Owensboro, Kentucky.
Can you describe your immediate family to the best of your abilities?
Unique.
In what ways could you describe them as unique?
We had some that were in law enforcement. We had some that were in direct ministry. And we also had some that in the 20s and 30s that would brew their own spirits.
Did your family, like your grandparents, share any family stories or memories that they had with you? And would you share those stories with us?
Your great-granddad, my granddad, was, you catch him on a good day, he would tell you a lot of stories. The story that he always told me for when he met my grandmother, his wife, our grandmother, was your great-great-grandfather, before he got baptized and everything, was not a nice person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one way for him, in order to move away from home, he actually joined a carnival. And that's where he met my grandmother.
Through these stories, can you tell me the names of our family members as far back as possible?
Masterson side, basically to my grandfather, which be Edward Lewis Masterson Sr. On my mother's side will be your great-great-grandmother, Eltie.
Do you know of any family heirlooms that we may have? This can include the artworks, photographs, diaries, newspaper stories, political activities, or church memberships.
We have the Masterson Family Bible, which has a lot of pictures from back in the earlier days of Grandma and Granddad's marriage, which also has early articles written to and from the church when they were still holding services under an oak tree.
Getting more into the family history and settlements of the Masterson and Hoheimers. How far back into our family history are you familiar with? Do you know any family history before they decided to immigrate to America?
I do know Mastersons came from Scotland and Ireland. Hoheimers, they were from Germany, and they were Cherokee Indian that was in the Kentucky and Indiana territories.
Prior to the immigration, can you tell me where we were settled? I know you just mentioned that Mastersons, we were in Scotland and Ireland.
I don't know direct locations. I just know, I do know we were from Scotland and Ireland, and that they were in ministry, and they were also accountants and bookkeeping.
Do you know any of the interesting stories that our family, about our family from those time periods?
We had a castle.
I
mean, and yeah, other than that fact, there's not a whole lot I can really say, because a lot of history was lost in between certain time periods, I guess, due to the immigration and losing records.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the most interesting thing I could find was, I guess, due to the fact that some of them were held to books and stuff that they were given status to where we had our own land and castle.
When our family decided to immigrate to America, do you know where they first settled?
Masterson side, and I guess you could say Hoheimer side too, probably. Ultimately, for the immigration, they did decide to settle in Virginia at first, and I would have to say mid-16s to early 1700s.
After Virginia and that time frame, do you know where they finally decided to settle?
Ultimately, the Mastersons ended up in Spencer County, Indiana, where my granddad was from Grandview, and his brother wound up living in Tell City, Indiana, and worked at Lincoln City Historical Park. Hoheimers, they wound up ultimately in Ohio County, Kentucky.
Do you know any of the work that our family was associated with when they finally decided to settle down in Indiana?
Law enforcement and farming. Your granddad, Masterson, your great granddad, Masterson, was a constable in Grandview, Indiana, and your Uncle Edward was the head sheriff's deputy for Spencer County for over 20 years, but was also a farmer before he joined the police force.
What are some other interesting stories about our family from after they settled that you can think of?
You had your great might be another great grandfather was Edward Masterson, who was brother to Bat Masterson in Tombstone, Arizona, which they worked with Wyatt Earp and the rest of the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday.
I think that's about it. Thank you for speaking with me today.
No problem.